There's a fire in the hearts of men that has burned for thousands of years, kindled by stories of heroes, gods, and epic battles. This fire blazes brightest when we speak of the Iliad and the Odyssey, two ancient tales that have transcended time, their echoes heard in the whispers of the winds and the crash of the waves. The Iliad begins with a rage. The greatest of the Greek warriors, Achilles, is furious. His anger is not just a personal grievance, it is a force that will shape the fate of nations. The Trojan War, a brutal conflict sparked by love and honor, rages for 10 long years. Helen, the most beautiful woman in the world, was taken from her husband, King Menelaus of Sparta, by Paris, a prince of Troy. The Greeks sailed across the sea to reclaim her, and thus began a siege that would test the limits of human endurance and valor. The Iliad is set against the backdrop of this war. It captures the intense emotions of its characters, the sorrow of those who lose loved ones, the pride of warriors in battle, and the yearning for glory and immortality. Achilles, invincible yet profoundly human, grapples with his own mortality and the choices that define him. His anger with Agamemnon, the Greek leader who dishonors him, sets off a chain of events that will lead to heartbreak and heroism. Through the lens of these legendary figures, the Iliad portrays the raw, unfiltered reality of war. The battlefield is a place of chaos and brutality, but it is also where courage and camaraderie shine brightest. Friends stand side by side, ready to give their lives for each other. Enemies clash with a fury that echoes the very wrath of the gods. Every death is a poignant reminder of the fragility of life and the cost of honor. And then there is Hector, the noble defender of Troy. As he faces Achilles, we feel the weight of his duty to his city and family. His love for his wife, Andromache, and his son, Astyanax, is a tender thread woven through the tapestry of war. Hector's final moments, as he stands alone before the unstoppable force of Achilles, are a testament to the bravery that defines true heroism. His death is not just a loss for Troy but a universal cry for peace and understanding. As the Iliad draws to a close, the war is not over. Troy still stands, but the seeds of its fall have been sown. The story lingers in the heart, a reminder of the sacrifices made and the unending quest for glory and peace. And then we turn to the Odyssey, a tale of homecoming. After the fall of Troy, Odysseus, the cleverest of the Greek heroes, yearns to return to his homeland, Ithaca, and his beloved wife, Penelope. But the gods have other plans, and his journey becomes a struggle against fate and the elements. For 10 years, Odysseus wanders the vast, unforgiving seas. He faces unimaginable challenges, a cyclops who traps him and his men, the enchanting yet deadly sirens, and the wrath of Poseidon, the god of the sea, who seeks to thwart his every step. Each trial is a test of his wit, his courage, and his enduring spirit. But it is not just monsters and gods that Odysseus must contend with. He also battles the darkness within himself. The lure of forgetting his past and the temptation to abandon his quest for home are ever present. His journey is as much about discovering his own identity as it is about the physical return to Ithaca. Penelope, meanwhile, waits with unwavering faith and cunning. She fends off a horde of suitors who seek her hand, using her intelligence to delay them, always believing that her husband will return. Their son, Telemachus, grows into a young man in the shadow of his father's absence, yearning to know the man whose legacy he is destined to carry on. The Odyssey is a story of perseverance and hope. It is a celebration of the human spirit's ability to overcome insurmountable odds, to cling to love and memory even when the world conspires to strip them away. Every island, every creature, every god that Odysseus encounters is a step toward understanding what it means to be human, to long for home and the embrace of loved ones. When Odysseus finally returns to Ithaca, it is not just a victory for him but for everyone who has ever longed for something lost. The reunion with Penelope is more than just the end of a journey, it is the triumph of love and faith over time and adversity. Their embrace, after years of separation, is a powerful reminder that no matter how far we roam, home is where the heart is, and love is the greatest adventure of all. These stories, born from the fireside tales of ancient Greece, continue to burn brightly within us. They remind us of our own struggles and triumphs, our own loves and losses. In the faces of Achilles, Hector, Odysseus, and Penelope, we see reflections of ourselves, and their stories become our own. In the ancient world, where gods walked among men and the whispers of fate could be heard on the wind, there lived heroes whose names would be etched into eternity. Their stories, filled with courage, love, and loss, have moved hearts for centuries. Among these tales, none are more poignant than those of Achilles, Hector, Agamemnon, and the events that led to the Trojan War. Achilles was the greatest of the Greek warriors. His mother, Thetis, a sea nymph, tried to make him immortal by dipping him in the river Styx when he was a baby. But she held him by his heel, leaving that one spot vulnerable. Achilles grew up to be a formidable warrior, his name feared across the lands. He was unmatched in battle, his strength and skills making him seem almost godlike. Yet, beneath his invincible exterior, Achilles was deeply human, with passions and desires that could be both his strength and his downfall. On the other side of the war stood Hector, the noble prince of Troy. Hector was not just a warrior, but also a loving husband and father. His devotion to his wife, Andromache, and their son, Astyanax, was profound. He fought not for glory but for the safety and future of his city and family. Hector's bravery and sense of duty were his guiding stars, and he faced each battle with a calm determination that inspired those around him. His heart was heavy with the knowledge of the war's toll on his people, yet he stood resolute, a beacon of hope and resistance. In the midst of these towering figures was Agamemnon, the king of Mycenae and the leader of the Greek forces. Ambitious and proud, Agamemnon sought to expand his power and secure his legacy through the conquest of Troy. His decision to lead the Greeks to war was fueled by both personal vendettas and a desire for eternal fame. Agamemnon's actions were often driven by a complex mix of pride and insecurity, his need for dominance sometimes blinding him to the consequences of his choices. The seeds of the Trojan War were sown long before the first spear was thrown. It began with a wedding, an event meant to celebrate love and unity, but which, instead, sparked a conflict that would engulf nations. The marriage of Peleus and Thetis, the parents of Achilles, was a grand affair, attended by gods and mortals alike. However, Eris, the goddess of discord, was not invited. Angered by the slight, she threw a golden apple among the guests, inscribed with the words "to the fairest." 3 goddesses, Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite, each claimed the apple. To settle the dispute, they turned to Paris, a prince of Troy known for his fairness. The goddesses tried to bribe him, Hera promised power, Athena offered wisdom, and Aphrodite tempted him with the love of the most beautiful woman in the world. Paris, swayed by Aphrodite's promise, awarded her the apple, sealing his fate and that of his city. The woman Aphrodite promised was Helen, wife of King Menelaus of Sparta. Helen's beauty was unmatched, and Paris, enchanted by her, journeyed to Sparta and took her back to Troy. Menelaus, devastated and dishonored, called upon the other Greek kings to honor their oaths and help him retrieve his wife. Thus, the Greek forces gathered under Agamemnon's command, and the sails of 1,000 ships were unfurled, headed towards the city of Troy. As the Greeks prepared for war, the heroes gathered, each with their own reasons for joining the fight. Achilles, though initially reluctant, was persuaded by the promise of eternal glory. His closest companion, Patroclus, joined him, bound by a friendship deeper than brotherhood. Odysseus, the clever king of Ithaca, known for his cunning mind, reluctantly left his home and family, driven by duty and the unbreakable bonds of honor. The Trojan War was more than just a battle for a city, it was a clash of ideals and destinies. On the plains of Troy, heroes fought and fell, their blood staining the earth, their cries echoing into the heavens. Achilles' wrath and unmatched prowess on the battlefield became legendary. He was a whirlwind of death and destruction, yet his heart was heavy with the loss of his friend Patroclus, killed by Hector. Achilles' sorrow turned to rage, leading to the fateful duel with Hector. The moment Achilles faced Hector outside the walls of Troy was one of the most heart-wrenching in all of history. Hector, knowing his fate, stood bravely, his thoughts filled with his family. Achilles, consumed by grief and rage, saw only his fallen friend. Their clash was a symphony of steel and fury, and when Achilles finally struck Hector down, it was not just a victory but a tragic end to a noble life. The image of Hector's lifeless body, dragged behind Achilles' chariot, was a haunting reminder of the war's brutal reality. Amidst the bloodshed, the gods watched and played their parts, their own conflicts and desires intertwining with those of the mortals. Zeus, the king of the gods, tried to maintain a fragile balance, while Hera and Athena supported the Greeks, and Aphrodite protected Paris and the Trojans. The whims of the gods added layers of complexity and unpredictability to the already intense human drama. As the war dragged on, the cost became unbearable. The city of Troy, once a beacon of prosperity and peace, was reduced to rubble and sorrow. The Greeks, too, paid a heavy price, their victory tainted by the immense loss of life and the haunting memories of the battles fought. The Trojan War, born from a divine dispute and human desires, left a legacy of both glory and tragedy, a testament to the heights of heroism and the depths of suffering. In the end, the stories of Achilles, Hector, Agamemnon, and the events leading to the Trojan War are more than just ancient tales. They are timeless reflections of our own struggles, our own desires for love, honor, and remembrance. Through their lives and deeds, we find echoes of our own hearts, and in their stories, we see the enduring spirit of humanity. In the heart of the Trojan War, where heroes clashed and the fate of cities hung in the balance, a fiery conflict erupted that would shape the destiny of all involved. Achilles, the mightiest of the Greek warriors, found himself at odds with Agamemnon, the proud leader of the Greek forces. This conflict was not just a clash of personalities, but a storm that would unleash the full fury of Achilles, leading to consequences that would echo through time. The trouble began when the Greeks captured two maidens during a raid, Briseis and Chryseis. Agamemnon claimed Chryseis as his prize, while Achilles took Briseis. But Chryseis' father, a priest of Apollo, pleaded with Agamemnon to return his daughter, offering rich gifts in exchange. When Agamemnon refused, Apollo, the god of the sun, unleashed a deadly plague upon the Greek camp. The warriors fell ill, and despair spread among the ranks. Desperate to end the suffering, Achilles called an assembly. The seer Calchas revealed that the plague would only end if Chryseis was returned to her father. Agamemnon, angry and humiliated, finally agreed but demanded Briseis from Achilles in compensation for his loss. This was more than an insult, it was a blow to Achilles' honor. The proud warrior, who had fought valiantly for the Greek cause, felt deeply betrayed. Achilles' heart burned with rage. In front of the assembled warriors, he confronted Agamemnon, calling him a greedy coward unworthy of command. Agamemnon, equally stubborn and enraged, took Briseis from Achilles' tent, sparking a conflict that would have devastating repercussions. Achilles, feeling dishonored and robbed of his rightful due, withdrew from the battle, vowing that the Greeks would soon realize how much they needed him. Without Achilles, the Greeks struggled against the Trojans. Each day, the Trojans, led by the noble Hector, pressed their advantage, pushing the Greeks back towards their ships. Morale plummeted, and the Greek warriors, once so confident in their invincibility, faced the grim reality of defeat. Achilles watched from the sidelines, his heart a battlefield of its own. His anger was a fire that refused to be quenched, and his pride would not allow him to return to the fight. His closest friend, Patroclus, saw the toll this was taking on their comrades and pleaded with Achilles to let him take his place. Wearing Achilles' armor, Patroclus hoped to rally the Greeks and drive the Trojans back. Achilles reluctantly agreed, but his heart was heavy with worry. He warned Patroclus to only defend the ships and not pursue the Trojans too far. But the battle called to Patroclus, and in the heat of combat, he forgot Achilles' warning. He charged after the Trojans, reaching the very gates of Troy. There, he encountered Hector. The two warriors clashed fiercely, but Hector, believing he was facing Achilles, fought with all his might. He struck Patroclus down, delivering a fatal blow. News of Patroclus' death reached Achilles, and the world seemed to shatter around him. His grief was a deep, agonizing wound that cut through his anger. The loss of his friend, who was like a brother to him, broke something inside Achilles. The flames of his wrath turned from Agamemnon to Hector, the man who had killed his dearest companion. Achilles' sorrow transformed into a burning desire for vengeance. He rejoined the battle, a force of nature driven by rage and grief. He sought Hector with a single-minded fury, cutting through the Trojan ranks like a tempest. The gods themselves watched in awe and fear as Achilles' wrath blazed. When Achilles finally confronted Hector, it was a moment heavy with fate. Hector, knowing his end was near, stood his ground, his thoughts with his family and city. Achilles, consumed by the need for revenge, showed no mercy. Their duel was fierce, a deadly dance of skill and strength. Achilles struck Hector down, and in his rage, he desecrated the noble warrior's body, dragging it behind his chariot around the walls of Troy. The consequences of Achilles' wrath were far-reaching. Hector's death was a devastating blow to Troy, shattering the hopes of its people. Yet, even in his grief, King Priam, Hector's father, showed incredible courage and humility. Under the cover of night, he ventured into the Greek camp to beg Achilles for his son's body. The sight of the old king, broken by sorrow yet dignified in his plea, touched something deep within Achilles. In that moment, Achilles' rage softened. He saw the pain of a father's loss, a reflection of his own grief for Patroclus. Achilles returned Hector's body to Priam, allowing the king to give his son the honor of a proper burial. It was a moment of profound humanity, where even amidst the horrors of war, compassion could still find a place. The conflict between Achilles and Agamemnon, and the subsequent wrath of Achilles, changed the course of the Trojan War. It showed the world the devastating power of anger and the profound impact of loss. Achilles, the greatest warrior, was also the most human, his heart capable of both incredible fury and deep compassion. These events remind us that behind the legends and the battles are real emotions and experiences that connect us all. The story of Achilles and his wrath is a timeless tale of pride, grief, and ultimately, redemption. It speaks to the core of what it means to be human, where even the mightiest heroes are vulnerable to the same emotions that move us all. The Trojan War, a tapestry woven with blood and bravery, saw many battles that would echo through the ages. Among the most poignant and heart-wrenching moments was the death of Patroclus and the fateful duel between Achilles and Hector. Patroclus, the dear friend of Achilles, was more than just a companion. He was a brother in arms, a confidant who shared the deepest bond with the mightiest Greek warrior. As the war raged on and Achilles remained withdrawn from battle due to his conflict with Agamemnon, the Greeks found themselves pushed to the brink by the relentless Trojan assault led by Hector. The warriors' morale was crumbling, and their ships, their last hope of retreat, were under siege. Seeing his comrades' desperation, Patroclus could no longer stand idly by. He approached Achilles with a plea that pierced through his friend's hardened heart. He asked for permission to don Achilles' armor and lead the Myrmidons into battle, hoping that the sight of the feared armor would turn the tide in favor of the Greeks. Achilles, though torn by his pride and anger, granted Patroclus his request, but with a stern warning: defend the ships, but do not pursue the Trojans to the city walls. With the armor of Achilles gleaming in the sunlight, Patroclus charged into the fray. The Greeks, reinvigorated by what they believed to be Achilles' return, fought with renewed vigor. The Trojans, momentarily stunned by the sight, began to falter. Patroclus' bravery was a beacon of hope, his heart filled with the fire of a true hero. But in the heat of battle, the intoxicating taste of victory led Patroclus to forget Achilles' warning. He pursued the Trojans back to their gates, where he encountered Hector. The Prince of Troy, realizing this was not Achilles but his friend, fought fiercely. The duel was intense, filled with the clash of swords and the heavy breath of warriors. Patroclus fought valiantly, but he was no match for Hector, who struck him down with a mortal blow. As Patroclus lay dying, he uttered a final, fateful prophecy: Achilles would avenge him. The news of Patroclus' death reached Achilles, and the world seemed to fall silent. His grief was overwhelming, a pain that consumed his very soul. Achilles, the invincible warrior, was brought to his knees by the loss of his beloved friend. His sorrow turned into a burning rage, a wrath that nothing could extinguish. Achilles re-entered the battlefield, his heart set on revenge. He became a force of nature, cutting down Trojans with a fury that was almost divine. The gods themselves looked on with awe and fear as Achilles' wrath blazed across the plains of Troy. His eyes were set on Hector, the man who had taken everything from him. The day of reckoning came when Achilles and Hector faced each other outside the walls of Troy. The air was thick with tension, the silence deafening as the two warriors prepared for their final duel. Hector, noble and brave, stood ready to face his fate, thoughts of his family and city weighing heavily on his mind. Achilles, driven by a single purpose, saw only the man who had killed Patroclus. Their battle was a symphony of skill and strength, each blow a testament to their prowess and determination. Hector fought with the desperation of a man defending his home, while Achilles struck with the precision of a vengeful god. In the end, it was Achilles who emerged victorious, his spear finding its mark and bringing Hector to the ground. Achilles' rage did not end with Hector's death. He desecrated Hector's body, dragging it behind his chariot around the walls of Troy, a display of anger and grief that shocked even his fellow Greeks. It was a moment of profound sorrow, a stark reminder of the devastating power of unchecked rage. Yet, amidst the horror, a moment of humanity shone through. King Priam, Hector's father, driven by love and desperation, ventured into the Greek camp to beg Achilles for his son's body. The sight of the old king, broken by grief yet dignified in his plea, touched Achilles deeply. In Priam's sorrow, Achilles saw his own, and for a brief moment, his rage subsided. He returned Hector's body, allowing the Trojan hero to be honored with a proper burial. The major battles and events of the Trojan War, particularly the death of Patroclus and the duel between Achilles and Hector, are more than just episodes of violence and vengeance. They are stories of profound human emotion, of friendship and loss, of anger and redemption. They remind us that even amidst the chaos of war, the bonds of love and the depths of grief can move the hearts of the mightiest heroes. The Trojan War, with its epic battles and legendary heroes, continues to resonate because it speaks to the core of what it means to be human. It shows us that even the greatest warriors are not immune to the pain of loss and the need for compassion. Through the lives and deaths of Patroclus, Achilles, and Hector, we see reflections of our own struggles, our own griefs, and our own capacity for forgiveness and understanding. In the quiet aftermath of battle, amidst the echoes of clashing swords and the cries of the fallen, there lies a moment of profound sorrow and dignity. The body of Hector, the noble prince of Troy, was finally returned to his family. His father, King Priam, had risked everything, driven by the desperate love of a father, to retrieve his son from the Greek camp. This act of courage and humility in the face of Achilles' wrath was a testament to the enduring bonds of family and honor. Hector's return to Troy was marked by a wave of grief that swept through the city. The people of Troy, who had long looked to Hector as their protector and hero, now faced the painful reality of his loss. Andromache, Hector's wife, was among the first to see his body. Her cries pierced the air, a raw expression of a heart shattered by grief. She held their son, Astyanax, close, knowing that their lives would never be the same. Her sorrow was a reflection of the pain that resonated throughout the city, a communal mourning for their fallen prince. The funeral rites of Hector were conducted with the utmost reverence and respect. The Trojans gathered wood for the funeral pyre, each piece a silent tribute to the hero who had fought so bravely for them. His body was washed and anointed with oils, a final act of care and love. Clad in his finest armor, Hector was laid upon the pyre, his presence commanding even in death. The fire was lit, and as the flames rose, the people of Troy offered prayers and sacrifices, their voices a chorus of grief and respect. The flames consumed Hector's body, but his spirit remained a beacon of courage and nobility. The pyre burned through the night, its glow a somber reminder of the hero they had lost. When the fire had finally died down, his bones were carefully collected and placed in a golden urn, which was then buried beneath a mound. The burial site would become a sacred place, a symbol of the enduring legacy of Hector's bravery and honor. The Iliad does not end with the fall of Troy or the deaths of its heroes, it ends with a moment of peace and a poignant reminder of the costs of war. Achilles, who had been driven by rage and grief, found a measure of solace in returning Hector's body to Priam. It was a moment of profound humanity, where even the greatest warrior could see the pain of a grieving father and respond with compassion. This act of mercy did not erase the pain or the losses suffered by both sides, but it offered a glimmer of hope that even amidst the devastation of war, there could be moments of understanding and respect. The Iliad's ending is not a resolution of conflict, but a recognition of the shared humanity that connects all people, even enemies. The legacy of the Iliad is vast and enduring. It is a story that transcends time, speaking to the core of human experience. The epic is a tapestry of heroism and tragedy, woven with threads of honor, love, and loss. It shows us the heights of bravery and the depths of sorrow, capturing the essence of what it means to be human. The characters of the Iliad, from the invincible Achilles to the noble Hector, are not just figures of myth and legend. They are mirrors of our own struggles and triumphs, our own fears and hopes. Their stories remind us that greatness is not just in victory, but in the courage to face our own flaws and the strength to act with compassion. The Iliad's influence is felt in every story of heroism and sacrifice that has followed. It has shaped our understanding of what it means to be a hero, not just in battle, but in life. The epic teaches us that true heroism is found in the ability to face overwhelming odds, to endure great loss, and to find the strength to show mercy and compassion. The funeral rites of Hector and the ending of the Iliad leave us with a sense of the profound impact of these ancient stories. They are more than just tales of gods and warriors, they are reflections of the human condition, capturing the eternal struggle between rage and redemption, loss and love. Through the lens of the Iliad, we see that even in the darkest times, there is the potential for light, for understanding, and for the enduring power of the human spirit. In the dawn of time, when gods and heroes walked the earth, the echoes of the Trojan War rang through the lands. For 10 long years, the Greeks and Trojans clashed beneath the towering walls of Troy, their battles etched into the very fabric of history. The war, sparked by a single act of love and betrayal, saw the rise and fall of great warriors and the destruction of a proud city. Yet, the end of the war was only the beginning of another epic tale, one filled with heartbreak, longing, and the enduring power of hope. The Greeks, after years of siege and countless lives lost, finally breached the walls of Troy using the cunning ruse of the wooden horse. Inside its hollow belly, Greek soldiers hid, waiting for the right moment to strike. As the Trojans celebrated what they believed to be their victory, the Greeks emerged under the cover of night, opening the gates for their comrades. The city of Troy, which had stood for centuries, fell in flames and blood. Men were slain, women taken captive, and the once mighty city was reduced to ashes. Among the Greek leaders, one man's journey home would become a legend of its own. Odysseus, the king of Ithaca, was known for his clever mind and resourceful nature. His role in devising the Trojan horse had been pivotal in the Greek victory, but his return to Ithaca was fraught with unimaginable trials and sorrows. His heart yearned for home, for the warmth of his wife, Penelope, and the laughter of his son, Telemachus. Penelope, the faithful wife of Odysseus, waited patiently in Ithaca. Each day, she looked out to the horizon, hoping to see the sails of her husband's ship. Despite the pressure from numerous suitors who sought to claim Odysseus's throne and hand in marriage, Penelope remained loyal. She devised her own clever ruse to delay them. She promised to choose a suitor once she finished weaving a funeral shroud for Odysseus's father. Each night, she unraveled her day's work, buying time and keeping hope alive. Telemachus, their young son, grew up in the shadow of his father's absence. He longed to meet the man he had heard so much about, the hero whose stories filled his heart with both pride and sorrow. As he came of age, Telemachus felt the weight of his father's legacy and the need to protect his mother from the increasingly aggressive suitors. His heart was filled with a determination to find his father and restore peace to their household. Odysseus's journey home, as chronicled in the Odyssey, was filled with trials that tested his spirit and resolve. He faced the wrath of Poseidon, god of the sea, who was angered by the blinding of his son, the Cyclops Polyphemus. Odysseus's ship was tossed by storms, and he and his men were driven off course time and again. They encountered the enchanting song of the sirens, the deadly whirlpool Charybdis, and the man-eating monster Scylla. Each challenge demanded all of Odysseus's wit and courage. One of the most poignant stops on his journey was the island of the nymph Calypso. She held Odysseus captive for 7 long years, offering him immortality if he would stay with her. Though tempted, Odysseus's heart remained true to Penelope. He longed for the simple, profound joys of home and family over eternal life without them. Eventually, with the intervention of the gods, he was set free to continue his voyage. Back in Ithaca, Telemachus grew weary of the suitor's disrespect and the strain on his mother. Guided by the goddess Athena, he set out on his own journey to seek news of his father. His travels took him to the courts of other Greek heroes who had survived the war, each offering fragments of hope and pieces of his father's story. Telemachus's quest was not just for news, but also a journey of growth, transforming him from a boy into a man ready to stand beside his father. As Odysseus neared home, his trials were far from over. Disguised as a beggar, he returned to Ithaca to assess the situation and plan his next move. His heart ached at the sight of his home overrun by suitors, but he was determined to reclaim his kingdom and reunite with his family. With the help of Telemachus, who had returned from his own journey, Odysseus revealed his true identity. Together, they confronted the suitors in a final, brutal confrontation that restored order to their home. The reunion of Odysseus and Penelope was filled with tears and joy. Penelope, ever cautious, tested Odysseus to ensure he was truly her husband. When he passed her test, their embrace was one of pure love and relief, the end of years of longing and uncertainty. Telemachus, too, found his place beside his father, the family once again whole. The story of the Trojan War and its aftermath, particularly the journey of Odysseus, is more than a tale of heroism and adventure. It is a testament to the enduring power of love and the unbreakable bonds of family. It shows us that even the greatest heroes are driven by the simplest and most profound desires, to protect, to return home, and to be with the ones they love. The characters of Odysseus, Penelope, and Telemachus are not just figures of myth, they are symbols of hope, loyalty, and perseverance. Their stories remind us that no matter how far we roam or how great the trials we face, the love and strength of family can guide us home. Through their lives, we see the timeless truth that the greatest journeys are those that lead us back to where our hearts truly belong. In the wake of Troy's fiery fall, Odysseus, the cunning hero of Ithaca, yearned to return home. His heart ached for his wife, Penelope, and his son, Telemachus, but the path back to Ithaca was fraught with unimaginable trials. His journey home became a legendary odyssey, filled with perilous encounters and heart-stopping adventures. Odysseus and his men set sail, hoping for a swift return. However, the gods had other plans. Their first major ordeal came when they landed on the island of the Cyclopes. These one-eyed giants lived in a lawless land, and it was here that Odysseus's wits were truly tested. Seeking supplies, Odysseus and his men stumbled upon the cave of Polyphemus, a massive cyclops who showed no hospitality. Trapped inside the cave, they watched in horror as Polyphemus devoured 2 of their comrades. Desperation led Odysseus to devise a bold plan. He offered Polyphemus strong wine, and as the Cyclops succumbed to its potency, Odysseus told him his name was Nobody. When Polyphemus fell into a drunken sleep, Odysseus and his men drove a sharp stake into the Cyclops' single eye, blinding him. In agony, Polyphemus cried out for help, but when asked who was hurting him, he could only say, "Nobody." This clever deception allowed Odysseus and his men to escape by clinging to the undersides of Polyphemus' sheep. As they sailed away, Odysseus couldn't resist taunting the blinded giant, revealing his true name, which led to Polyphemus calling upon his father, Poseidon, to curse Odysseus. The curse of Poseidon loomed over Odysseus' voyage, bringing stormy seas and relentless challenges. Eventually, they reached the island of Aeaea, home of the enchantress Circe. This beautiful but dangerous sorceress transformed Odysseus' men into swine with a wave of her wand. Heartbroken and determined, Odysseus confronted Circe, armed with a protective herb given to him by Hermes. The herb shielded him from her magic, and he managed to compel Circe to revert his men to their human forms. Circe, impressed by Odysseus' resilience and cunning, became his ally. They spent a year on her island, during which time she warned him of the perils that lay ahead. Her advice was crucial for the next leg of his journey, where they would face the sirens, whose beautiful, haunting song lured sailors to their doom. As their ship neared the sirens' domain, Odysseus prepared for the test. He ordered his men to fill their ears with beeswax, rendering them immune to the sirens' seductive voices. However, driven by his unquenchable thirst for knowledge and adventure, he had himself tied to the mast of the ship, instructing his men to ignore his pleas for release no matter how desperately he begged. The siren song began, a melody so enchanting that it seemed to reach into Odysseus's soul, promising him all the secrets and pleasures of the world. Bound to the mast, he writhed and screamed, begging to be set free, but his loyal men rowed on, their ears closed to his cries. They passed the siren safely, and the haunting music faded into the distance, leaving Odysseus exhausted but alive, his will tested yet again. Despite these harrowing encounters, the journey was far from over. Odysseus and his crew faced numerous other challenges, each one a testament to his leadership and cunning. From escaping the clutches of the Laestrygonians, a race of giant cannibals, to navigating the treacherous straits between Scylla, the six-headed monster, and Charybdis, the deadly whirlpool, every trial seemed designed to break their spirits. The journey's toll weighed heavily on Odysseus. Each lost crew member was a wound on his heart, each delay a blow to his hope of seeing Ithaca again. Yet, his determination never wavered. The longing for home, the memory of Penelope's faithful love, and the dream of reuniting with Telemachus kept him moving forward, against all odds. One of the most poignant moments came on the island of the dead, where Odysseus sought the wisdom of the blind prophet Tiresias. There, he encountered the spirits of his past, including his mother, Anticlea, who had died from grief during his prolonged absence. The sorrow of this reunion, the guilt and the longing, added a deeper layer to Odysseus's resolve. He learned from Tiresias that his journey would not end easily and that further trials awaited him even upon his return to Ithaca. With each adventure, Odysseus grew not just as a hero, but as a man who understood the profound cost of his quest. His story is not just one of battles and monsters, but of the enduring human spirit, of love and loss, of the relentless pursuit of home. It is a tale that speaks to the hearts of all who have faced seemingly insurmountable challenges, showing that with courage and cleverness, even the greatest obstacles can be overcome. Odysseus's Odyssey is a timeless reminder of the strength of the human spirit. His journey home from Troy, marked by encounters with the Cyclops, Circe, and the Sirens, is a saga of endurance and hope. It is a story that has captured the imaginations of countless generations, showing that no matter how far we roam or how dire our circumstances, the heart's desire for home and loved ones can carry us through the darkest of times. In the heart of Ithaca, a quiet island enveloped in the gentle embrace of the sea, Penelope waited. Each dawn brought with it a renewed hope, a flicker of belief that Odysseus, her husband and the father of her son, would return from the endless tides of war. She faced each day with unwavering strength, but the burden of her waiting was heavy. For 20 long years, she stood against the current of time, her heart anchored by love and faith. Penelope's challenges were formidable. The absence of Odysseus had left a void, not just in her life, but in the leadership of Ithaca. Suitors from far and wide flocked to her home, each one eager to take Odysseus's place. They feasted on the wealth of the household, consuming resources and respect with every passing day. These suitors, arrogant and relentless, clamored for Penelope's hand, pressuring her to choose among them and relinquish her hope. But Penelope, wise and resilient, devised a plan to keep the suitors at bay. She promised to choose a new husband once she finished weaving a shroud for Laertes, Odysseus's father. Yet every night, by the flickering light of the hearth, she secretly unraveled her day's work. Her deception bought her time, a testament to her cleverness and steadfastness. Her nights were filled with silent tears and whispered prayers, her hands weaving and unweaving, holding onto the thread of hope that her beloved Odysseus would find his way home. Meanwhile, their son Telemachus faced his own trials. Growing up without his father, he carried the weight of expectations and the burden of protecting his mother. The suitors, sensing his youth and inexperience, dismissed him as a threat. Yet, Within, Telemachus burned the spirit of Odysseus. Guided by the goddess Athena, he embarked on a quest to seek news of his father. He traveled to the courts of Nestor and Menelaus, searching for any trace of Odysseus's fate, learning the ways of leadership and courage along the way. Telemachus's journey was not just a physical one, it was a path to maturity and strength. He learned of his father's heroic deeds and struggles, each story fortifying his resolve. The journey shaped him, turning the boy into a man ready to stand beside his father, to reclaim their home and restore their family's honor. Amidst the struggles of Penelope and Telemachus, Odysseus was enduring his own odyssey, his heart constantly pulled towards Ithaca. When he finally arrived on the shores of his homeland, disguised as a beggar, he found a kingdom in disarray. The sight of his home, ravaged by suitors, filled him with a burning desire to reclaim what was his. Odysseus's first reunion was with Telemachus. The moment was a mixture of disbelief and overwhelming emotion. Telemachus, returning from his quest, could hardly believe that the stranger before him was his father. When Odysseus revealed his identity, father and son embraced, their tears mingling with the dust of the journey. This reunion was not just a meeting of family, but a merging of hope and strength. Together, they plotted the downfall of the suitors, their bond fortified by shared purpose and love. The final challenge was to reunite with Penelope, whose heart had been a fortress of hope. Odysseus, still in disguise, observed the suitor's arrogance and his wife's quiet suffering. He entered the halls of his home, where Penelope announced a contest. Whoever could string Odysseus's great bow and shoot an arrow through 12 axe heads would win her hand. One by one, the suitors failed, their bravado crumbling. Then, the beggar stepped forward. The hall fell silent as he took the bow, a relic of his former glory. With ease, he strung it and sent the arrow true, through the axe heads. The suitors' shock turned to terror as Odysseus revealed himself, striking them down with Telemachus by his side. Justice was swift and final. The moment Penelope and Odysseus faced each other was charged with a mixture of disbelief, joy, and cautious hope. Penelope, ever wise, tested him. She spoke of their bed, carved from an olive tree, a secret known only to them. When Odysseus recounted the story with the intimate detail of a man who had shared her life and love, the final barrier of doubt fell away. Their embrace was a balm to the wounds of 20 years, a testament to enduring love and faith. Tears flowed freely, washing away the years of longing and heartache. Penelope, who had held on to hope with every fiber of her being, finally saw her faith rewarded. Telemachus, who had grown into a man worthy of his lineage, stood proudly with his family, his heart full. The reunion of Odysseus with Penelope and Telemachus was more than just a return home. It was the triumph of love over adversity, of hope over despair. The family, once fragmented by war and time, was whole again. Their story is a timeless reminder that no matter the trials faced, love, patience, and unwavering faith can overcome the greatest of obstacles. The legacy of Odysseus, Penelope, and Telemachus is one of resilience and the enduring power of the human spirit, a story that continues to inspire and touch hearts across the ages. The air in Ithaca was thick with anticipation. Inside the grand hall of Odysseus's home, the suitors lounged with arrogance, unaware that their days of feasting and plundering were numbered. They had taken advantage of Odysseus's absence for too long, pressing Penelope to choose a new husband from among them. But a reckoning was coming, one that would be swift and merciless. Odysseus, disguised as a humble beggar, had finally returned to his kingdom. With him was his son, Telemachus, now grown into a man ready to stand beside his father. The moment of truth had arrived, and with quiet resolve, they prepared to take back their home. The plan was set in motion with a test that only Odysseus could pass, the stringing of his great bow and shooting an arrow through 12 axe heads, a feat of skill and strength. The suitors, in their hubris, took turns attempting the task. One by one, they failed, their efforts clumsy and futile. Laughter and jeers filled the hall as they mocked the beggar who stepped forward to try his luck. But when Odysseus, with steady hands and focused gaze, effortlessly strung the bow and sent the arrow sailing through the axe heads, silence fell. In that moment, the beggar became a king once more, his true identity revealed in an act of sheer mastery. Chaos erupted as Odysseus turned the bow on the suitors. With Telemachus by his side, they fought with a fury born of years of pent-up longing and righteous anger. The suitors, caught off guard and unarmed, fell one by one. The hall, once filled with the sounds of revelry, now echoed with the cries of battle and the clash of weapons. The air was thick with the smell of blood and the sight of retribution. The suitors had underestimated the spirit and strength of Odysseus and his family. They had believed that time and absence had weakened him, but they were wrong. With every arrow and strike, Odysseus reclaimed not just his home, but his honor and the dignity of his household. Penelope watched from a distance, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and hope, as the man she had waited for proved himself in the most decisive way possible. When the last suitor had fallen, the silence that followed was profound. The hall was littered with the bodies of those who had sought to usurp Odysseus's place. The survivors, servants who had remained loyal, and the women of the household, emerged from their hiding places, their faces etched with relief and disbelief. Order had been restored, but the cost was visible in every blood-stained corner of the hall. The reunion of Odysseus and Penelope was not immediate. She needed to be sure, to protect herself from the cruel games of fate that had kept them apart for so long. Penelope tested Odysseus with one final challenge. She instructed her maid to move their marriage bed, a task impossible without dismantling it, for Odysseus had built it around a living olive tree. When Odysseus protested, describing the bed in intimate detail, Penelope knew the truth. This man was indeed her husband, the same Odysseus who had left her so many years ago. Their embrace was filled with the weight of 2 decades of longing and loss. Tears flowed freely as they held each other, their hearts beating in a rhythm that neither had forgotten. The room around them seemed to fade away, leaving only the profound connection between 2 souls who had endured the trials of time and fate. The love that had sustained them through years of separation now wrapped around them like a warm, comforting blanket. Telemachus, standing nearby, watched his parents with a heart full of pride and joy. The family was whole again, their bond stronger than ever. The trials they had faced, both individually and together, had forged a resilience that would see them through whatever lay ahead. They had each grown in their own ways, their experiences shaping them into the people they were meant to be. With the suitors gone and peace restored, Odysseus turned his attention to his kingdom. He re-established his rule, bringing justice and order back to Ithaca. The scars of the past years remained, but they were marks of survival and strength. The people of Ithaca welcomed their king with open arms, their loyalty rekindled by the hero who had fought so hard to return. The legacy of Odysseus, Penelope, and Telemachus is one of enduring love and unyielding spirit. Their story is a testament to the power of hope and the strength of the human heart. It reminds us that no matter how far we wander, how great the obstacles we face, or how long we are separated from those we love, the bonds of family and home are unbreakable. In the end, love and determination can overcome even the most daunting of challenges, leading us back to where we truly belong. In the ancient world of the Greeks, heroism was more than a quality, it was a destiny. Heroes were those who stood at the edge of the human and the divine, their lives a tapestry of bravery, sacrifice, and fate. The concept of the hero was deeply intertwined with the will of the gods, whose whims and desires could make or break the lives of mortals. Odysseus was the embodiment of this heroic ideal. His journey home from Troy was not just a test of endurance, but a testament to his cunning, strength, and relentless spirit. Each challenge he faced, be it the wrath of Poseidon, the allure of the sirens, or the treacherous seas, was a crucible that forged his character. A hero in Greek mythology was expected to face insurmountable odds with courage and cleverness, and Odysseus epitomized this through his actions and decisions. Heroism was also about understanding and navigating the fine line between hubris and humility. Odysseus's encounter with the Cyclops Polyphemus illustrates this. After blinding the giant to escape captivity, Odysseus could not resist revealing his true identity, boasting of his deed. This act of pride led to Polyphemus calling upon his father, Poseidon, to curse Odysseus, which brought further trials upon him. This moment was a powerful reminder that even heroes must be wary of overstepping their bounds, for the gods were always watching. The gods themselves played a pivotal role in the lives of heroes, their influence ever-present and often unpredictable. They could be both benefactors and tormentors, guiding and obstructing in equal measure. Athena, the goddess of wisdom, was Odysseus's protector, aiding him with her divine insight and intervention. It was she who helped him devise the plan to escape the Cyclops and later assisted in his return to Ithaca. However, the gods were not united in their support. Poseidon, angered by the blinding of his son Polyphemus, relentlessly pursued Odysseus with his vengeance, causing storms and obstacles that prolonged the hero's journey. This divine interference highlighted the precarious nature of human life in Greek mythology, where mortals were often at the mercy of the gods' rivalries and caprices. Penelope and Telemachus, though not warriors like Odysseus, also exhibited heroism in their steadfastness and courage. Penelope's cleverness in delaying the suitors through her weaving ruse, and Telemachus's bravery in seeking out his father, were acts of quiet heroism. They faced their trials with grace and fortitude, proving that heroism could also be found in patience and endurance. The relationship between the gods and mortals was complex and multifaceted. The gods were deeply involved in human affairs, yet their motives were often inscrutable. Their actions could bring about both blessing and calamity. Mortals, in turn, sought to appease the gods through rituals and sacrifices, hoping to earn their favor or at least avert their wrath. This divine intervention underscored the belief that fate was a powerful force, guiding the destinies of heroes. Yet, within this framework of fate, there was room for human agency. Heroes like Odysseus could shape their destinies through their actions, decisions, and sheer willpower. This interplay between fate and free will was a core theme in Greek mythology, reflecting the ancient Greeks' understanding of the human condition. Odysseus's ultimate return to Ithaca was as much a triumph of divine favor as it was of human tenacity. His reunion with Penelope and Telemachus symbolized the restoration of order and the fulfillment of destiny. The trials he endured were not just physical but also moral and psychological, testing his loyalty, wisdom, and resilience. The legacy of these tales is the enduring notion that heroism is not just about strength or bravery, but also about wisdom, perseverance, and humility. It is about facing the challenges life throws at you, whether they come from the gods or the world around you, with courage and integrity. The role of the gods in these stories serves as a reminder of the unpredictability of life and the importance of humility. Even as heroes strive for greatness, they must remember their place in the cosmos and the forces beyond their control. The gods' favor is a gift that can be as fleeting as it is powerful, and true heroism lies in navigating these divine tides with wisdom and grace. In the grand tapestry of Greek mythology, heroes like Odysseus shine brightly, their stories woven with threads of divine intervention and human endeavor. Their tales continue to resonate, offering timeless lessons on the nature of heroism and the intricate dance between fate and free will. Through their struggles and triumphs, we find reflections of our own journeys, the challenges we face, and the courage we must muster to overcome them. In the annals of human experience, few virtues resonate as deeply as loyalty, perseverance, and cunning. These qualities are not mere attributes but pillars upon which the stories of our lives are built, stories that echo through generations, inspiring hearts and stirring souls with their timeless lessons. Loyalty, the steadfast allegiance to a cause or person, binds us together in the fabric of humanity. It is a thread that weaves through the tale of Odysseus, who left behind his beloved wife, Penelope, and infant son, Telemachus, to fight in the Trojan War. For 20 long years, through trials that tested his spirit and resolve, Odysseus clung to the hope of returning home. His loyalty was not just to his family, but to his kingdom of Ithaca, which awaited his return like a beacon in the storm-tossed sea. In Ithaca, Penelope embodied another facet of loyalty, a wife who, against all odds, remained faithful to her absent husband. Surrounded by suitors who sought to claim her hand and her kingdom, Penelope devised a cunning ruse to delay her remarriage. She promised to choose a suitor once she finished weaving a shroud for Odysseus's father, Laertes, but by night, she secretly unraveled her day's work. This act of loyalty and cleverness bought her time, a testament to her unwavering devotion to Odysseus. Telemachus, too, displayed loyalty in his relentless quest to uncover the fate of his father. Despite growing up without Odysseus's guidance, he embarked on a journey across the seas, seeking knowledge from veterans of the Trojan War like Nestor and Menelaus. His loyalty to his father and his determination to protect his mother from the suitors were the driving forces behind his transformation from a boy into a man worthy of his lineage. Perseverance, the unwavering determination to overcome obstacles and achieve one's goals, was the cornerstone of Odysseus's journey. His odyssey from the fields of Troy back to Ithaca was fraught with peril, from the wrath of Poseidon to the seductive calls of the sirens, but at every turn, he persevered. His resolve was a testament to the human spirit's capacity to endure hardship and emerge stronger on the other side. One of the most poignant examples of Odysseus's perseverance was his encounter with the Cyclops Polyphemus. Trapped in the giant's cave, Odysseus devised a cunning plan to blind Polyphemus and escape. However, his moment of victory turned into a test of endurance as he and his men faced the wrath of Poseidon, who cursed Odysseus for his hubris. Despite setbacks, Odysseus pressed on, driven by the promise of reuniting with his family and reclaiming his kingdom. Penelope's perseverance was equally profound. For 20 years, she resisted the advances of the suitors, maintaining hope that Odysseus would return. Her nights were spent weaving and unraveling, a symbolic act of perseverance and resilience in the face of adversity. Each day brought new challenges and temptations, but Penelope's steadfast commitment to her absent husband remained unwavering. Telemachus's journey was a testament to perseverance as well. Despite facing doubt and skepticism from the suitors and others who doubted his lineage, he pressed forward, seeking answers about his father's fate. His perseverance was rewarded with knowledge and wisdom, gained through encounters with legendary figures who had fought alongside Odysseus in the Trojan War. Cunning, the ability to think and act cleverly, often in difficult or unexpected situations, was a hallmark of Odysseus's character. His cunning was most evident in his encounter with the Trojan horse, a stratagem that ultimately led to the downfall of Troy. Odysseus and his men concealed themselves within the hollow belly of the horse, presenting it as a gift to the Trojans. Under the cover of night, they emerged to open the city gates to the waiting Greek army, ending the decade-long war. Throughout his odyssey, Odysseus relied on his cunning to outwit adversaries and navigate treacherous waters. His encounter with Circe, the enchantress who turned his men into swine, showcased his ability to think quickly and negotiate for their release. With the guidance of Hermes, he resisted Circe's spells and ultimately convinced her to restore his crew to human form, gaining valuable knowledge and companionship in the process. Penelope's cunning was equally impressive. In her efforts to delay remarriage to the suitors, she devised the shroud-weaving ruse, an ingenious plan that bought her time and thwarted their advances. Her ability to outwit the suitors demonstrated her intelligence and resourcefulness, qualities that complemented her loyalty and perseverance in waiting for Odysseus's return. Telemachus, too, demonstrated cunning in his quest for information about his father. He navigated the complexities of court politics and familial rivalries, extracting knowledge from elders who had known Odysseus during the Trojan War. His ability to gather information discreetly and discern truth from falsehood was a testament to his growing maturity and cunning. The power of storytelling and memory was another vital element in the epic saga of Odysseus and his family. Throughout the Odyssey, the characters' tales served as a means of preserving history, passing down wisdom, and connecting generations. The bards who recited these stories were not mere entertainers, but guardians of cultural heritage, weaving narratives that illuminated the triumphs and tribulations of heroes. Odysseus himself was a master storyteller, recounting his adventures to those he encountered on his journey. His tales captivated audiences and revealed the depths of his experiences, from the horrors of the Cyclops' cave to the seductive allure of Circe's island. Through storytelling, Odysseus forged bonds with allies and earned the respect of strangers, demonstrating the enduring power of narrative in forging connections and shaping identities. Memory, too, played a crucial role in the Odyssey. Penelope's steadfast remembrance of Odysseus, despite the passage of 2 decades, kept his spirit alive in Ithaca. Her faithfulness was a testament to the enduring power of love and memory, which transcended time and distance. Telemachus, raised on stories of his father's heroism, carried these memories with him on his quest, drawing strength from the legacy of Odysseus and the values he embodied. The bards who sang of Odysseus's exploits ensured that his story would be remembered for generations to come. Their verses celebrated his triumphs and mourned his losses, preserving his legacy in the collective memory of the Greek people. Through their artistry, they immortalized Odysseus as a symbol of courage, resilience, and the indomitable human spirit. In conclusion, the epic saga of Odysseus and his family is a testament to the enduring power of loyalty, perseverance, cunning, storytelling, and memory. These timeless virtues resonate across cultures and centuries, offering lessons in courage, resilience, and the boundless capacity of the human heart. Through their trials and triumphs, Odysseus, Penelope, and Telemachus embody the essence of what it means to be heroes, figures whose stories continue to inspire and touch the hearts of all who hear them. In the vast tapestry of Western literature, there are 2 threads that shimmer with a timeless brilliance, threads woven from the epics of Homer, the Iliad and the Odyssey. These ancient tales, passed down through generations, have left an indelible mark on the literary landscape, inspiring countless adaptations and interpretations that continue to resonate with audiences today. The Iliad, with its portrayal of heroism and tragedy amidst the backdrop of the Trojan War, speaks to the essence of human conflict and the fragile nature of honor. At its heart is Achilles, the formidable warrior whose wrath and grief propel the narrative forward. His rage, sparked by an affront to his honor by King Agamemnon, sets in motion a series of events that culminate in devastating consequences for both Greeks and Trojans alike. The emotional depth of the Iliad lies not only in its portrayal of epic battles and larger-than-life heroes, but also in its exploration of the human condition. Achilles, despite his prowess in battle, grapples with existential questions and the fleeting nature of mortality. His bond with Patroclus, his closest companion, adds a layer of poignancy as their relationship transcends mere camaraderie, revealing themes of love and loss that resonate across time. The Odyssey, in contrast, takes readers on a journey of endurance and resilience as Odysseus strives to return home to Ithaca after the Trojan War. His Odyssey, spanning 10 years and fraught with perilous obstacles orchestrated by vengeful gods, showcases his cunning and perseverance. Each episode, from the Cyclops Polyphemus to the enchantress Circe and the seductive sirens, offers a glimpse into the complexities of human nature and the hero's quest for identity and reunion. At its heart, the Odyssey is a testament to the power of hope and the enduring bonds of family. Penelope's unwavering faithfulness to Odysseus during his absence and Telemachus's coming-of-age journey to find his father embody the themes of loyalty and kinship that resonate throughout the epic. These elements not only enrich the narrative, but also elevate it to a timeless exploration of human longing and the quest for meaning. The influence of the Iliad and the Odyssey on Western literature is profound and far-reaching. The themes of heroism, fate, and the interplay between gods and mortals have inspired countless writers, poets, and playwrights throughout history. The tragedians of ancient Greece, such as Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides, drew upon the themes and characters of Homer's epics in their own works, exploring the complexities of human emotion and moral ambiguity. In the realm of Roman literature, Virgil's Aeneid stands as a monumental tribute to Homer's influence. Drawing inspiration from both the Iliad and the Odyssey, Virgil crafted an epic that traces the journey of Aeneas from the ruins of Troy to the founding of Rome. The Aeneid not only pays homage to its Greek predecessors, but also explores themes of destiny, duty, and the forging of a new civilization, a testament to the enduring legacy of Homer's vision. The Renaissance period witnessed a resurgence of interest in classical literature, with Homer's epics serving as touchstones for poets and scholars seeking to revive the ideals of ancient Greece. The translation of the Iliad and the Odyssey into vernacular languages, such as English and Italian, brought these timeless tales to a broader audience, fostering a renewed appreciation for their themes of heroism and human drama. In the realm of English literature, the influence of Homer's epics can be seen in the works of Geoffrey Chaucer, John Milton, and William Shakespeare, among others. Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, with its diverse array of characters and stories, echoes the narrative richness of the Odyssey, while Milton's Paradise Lost draws upon the epic tradition to explore themes of rebellion, redemption, and the nature of evil. Shakespeare's plays, such as Troilus and Cressida and The Tempest, reflect his engagement with Homer's themes of love and betrayal, fate and free will. The echoes of Homer's epics resonate through the ages, inspiring new interpretations and adaptations that continue to captivate audiences and provoke thought. In more recent times, the Iliad and the Odyssey have found new life in adaptations across various media, from novels and films to television series and graphic novels. Each adaptation brings a fresh perspective to Homer's timeless tales, reimagining characters and events for contemporary audiences while preserving the essence of their enduring themes. Films such as Wolfgang Petersen's Troy and Joel and Ethan Cohen's O Brother, Where Art Thou? Offer modern interpretations of the Iliad and the Odyssey, respectively, blending historical epic with contemporary storytelling techniques. These adaptations capture the epic scale and emotional resonance of Homer's works, translating them for a visual medium while exploring their timeless themes of heroism, destiny, and the human spirit. In literature, Madeline Miller's novel The Song of Achilles offers a reimagining of the Iliad through the perspective of Achilles and Patroclus' relationship, exploring themes of love, honor, and sacrifice with lyrical prose and emotional depth. Miller's novel The Odyssey, 2, reinterprets Odysseus' journey from the perspective of Circe, the enchantress who plays a pivotal role in his Odyssey. The enduring appeal of the Iliad and the Odyssey lies in their ability to transcend time and culture, speaking to universal truths about the human experience. Their themes of loyalty, perseverance, cunning, storytelling, and memory continue to resonate with readers and audiences, inspiring reflection and introspection. Through their epic tales, Homer invites us to confront the complexities of our own lives and the timeless quest for meaning and connection that defines the human condition. In the vast expanse of contemporary culture, where stories flicker across screens and pages, few narratives possess the enduring allure and resonance of Homer's epics, the Iliad and the Odyssey. These ancient tales, forged in the crucible of oral tradition and etched into the annals of human history, continue to captivate hearts and minds with their timeless themes and unforgettable characters. At their core, the Iliad and the Odyssey resonate with themes that transcend the boundaries of time and place. In the Iliad, the ravages of war and the consequences of unchecked pride reverberate through the lives of its characters. Achilles, the indomitable warrior whose wrath fuels the epic's narrative, embodies the complexities of heroism and hubris. His feud with Agamemnon, sparked by a dispute over honor, sets the stage for a conflict that consumes gods and mortals alike, revealing the fragile balance between glory and tragedy. Contemporary culture echoes of Achilles' dilemma, where the pursuit of greatness often collides with the constraints of mortality. His internal struggle, torn between the desire for immortality through heroic deeds and the inevitability of a mortal fate, resonates with modern audiences grappling with ambition, identity, and the quest for significance in an ever-changing world. The Odyssey, in contrast, offers a journey of exploration and endurance, as Odysseus navigates a series of trials and temptations on his decade-long voyage home from the Trojan War. His encounters with mythical creatures like the Cyclops Polyphemus, the enchantress Circe, and the seductive sirens serve as allegories for the challenges and temptations that confront every human soul. Through cunning and perseverance, Odysseus overcomes these obstacles, driven by the promise of reunion with his beloved wife, Penelope, and their son, Telemachus. In contemporary culture, Odysseus' Odyssey finds resonance in tales of resilience and determination in the face of adversity. His quest for homecoming becomes a metaphor for the universal longing for belonging and restoration, echoing through narratives of personal growth, self-discovery, and the triumph of the human spirit over adversity. The characters of the Iliad and the Odyssey have left an indelible mark on contemporary literature, film, and art, their archetypes and dilemmas woven into the fabric of storytelling. Achilles, with his prowess in battle and vulnerability in grief, has inspired countless depictions of heroism and tragedy in literature and film. His bond with Patroclus, celebrated in Madeline Miller's novel The Song of Achilles, offers a poignant exploration of love, loyalty, and sacrifice in the face of war and destiny. Penelope, too, stands as a symbol of fidelity and resilience, her steadfastness during Odysseus's absence immortalized in narratives of enduring love and loyalty. In Margaret Atwood's novel The Penelopiad, her perspective on waiting and weaving becomes a lens through which to explore the complexities of gender, power, and agency in myth and memory. Telemachus, in his journey from boyhood to manhood in search of his father, embodies themes of identity, legacy, and the quest for meaning. His coming-of-age story resonates with contemporary audiences grappling with questions of purpose and inheritance in a rapidly changing world. The enduring appeal of the Iliad and the Odyssey lies in their ability to transcend time and culture, offering insights into the human experience that resonate across millennia. Their themes of loyalty, perseverance, cunning, storytelling, and memory continue to inspire reflection and introspection, inviting readers and audiences to confront the complexities of their own lives and the universal quest for meaning and connection. In literature, the influence of Homer's epics can be seen in works that draw upon their themes and characters to explore contemporary issues and dilemmas. In Derek Walcott's poem Omeros, the epic tradition is reimagined in the Caribbean context, blending the mythic with the modern to reflect on themes of identity, heritage, and colonial legacy. In Kazuo Ishiguro's novel The Buried Giant, echoes of the Odyssey resonate in a tale of memory, loss, and reconciliation set in a mythical post-Arthurian Britain. The quest for a lost past becomes a metaphor for the human longing for understanding and forgiveness in the face of historical amnesia and cultural erasure. In film and television, adaptations of Homer's epics continue to captivate audiences with their visual spectacle and emotional depth. Wolfgang Petersen's Troy offers a cinematic retelling of the Trojan War, exploring themes of honor, destiny, and the price of ambition in a world torn apart by conflict and betrayal. In O Brother, Where Art Thou?, the Coen brothers offer a quirky reinterpretation of the Odyssey set in the American South during the Great Depression. Through the misadventures of its protagonists, the film explores themes of identity, redemption, and the enduring power of hope in the face of adversity. The enduring appeal of the Iliad and the Odyssey lies in their ability to evoke empathy and provoke thought, inviting readers and audiences to explore timeless questions about human nature, destiny, and the search for meaning. Through their epic tales, Homer invites us to confront the complexities of our own lives and the universal quest for connection and understanding that defines the human condition.